Hi there, and these comments are for one of my students, and I am Michael Buckoff. I am from OTC Online TOEFL You're also one of my instructors in the English language program at California State University, San Bernardino, and you sent me, it's kind of like a diagnostic writing practice test, TOEFL style. So I'm going to give you some feedback right now so you can kind of see where your writing is. In this case, um, I gave you 2.0 out of 5, 14 points out of 30. So if you look at the actual rubrics that the TOEFL uses here, I'm going to show you why you got the score you did, right? Exactly why. There's no secrets when it comes to writing. I think you can probably improve your introduction, especially your thesis in the beginning. This is the big one. Inappropriate or insufficient exemplifications, explanations, or details to support or illustrate generalizations in response to a task. You bring up an example, but you don't develop it enough, right? And believe it or not, the grammar is not that big of a deal. I think that you have pretty good control over your sentence structure, your word forms, but your sentence style is a little bit basic. But the biggest thing we want to work on right now is I want to show you how you can really develop each paragraph more than what you did, and this is definitely going to move you to a higher score. And ultimately, it's going to help you have higher academic writing proficiency. Okay, so what better way to do it? I'm going to show you what you wrote, and I'm going to give you an example of an edit, a revision. So your first paragraph says, there are many interesting countries in the world that I'd love to visit. The most place I wish to visit is Europe, especially Venice, for several reasons. I would probably see here the place that I wish to visit the most is Europe. That's how I would say that. But then here is an edit of your paragraph. And I've added what we call, I'm trying to include some general information first, which you did not do. So many people have hectic jobs and very busy personal lives, so they look for ways to relieve these daily stresses. One way to relieve stress is to travel to destinations in order to see new things and learn new cultural traditions. Although some people have limited incomes and can only travel within their own countries, others allocate money to travel in places in other parts of the world. If I had enough discretionary income, I would definitely visit Venice, Italy, because of its numerous historical sites, gondola boat rides, and shopping opportunities. This is what you did not do. You just said several reasons. I actually stated each support point in the thesis. Notice how, as I state the support points, you have historical sites, and then I put ancient historical sites in the first topic sentence. The second point in the thesis is gondola boat ride, so are you surprised? In the next topic sentence, I put ride in a gondola. And then the last thing I put here is shopping opportunities. And then the last topic sentence, it does say shopping and buying souvenirs. So that's my first big suggestion, is you need to have a more specific thesis that can really frame what's going on in those body paragraphs. Okay, so this is what I wrote here. This is my editing suggestion here. And then this is what you wrote. Now, in your next paragraph, you put, on one hand, Venice is one of the most ancient historical sites and has many heritage and romantic places. See, that's the problem. If you start off with many heritage and romantic places, your essay doesn't focus itself very well. But look at what I said. I said Venice is an excellent choice for tourists to visit because of its ancient historical sites, such as the House of Romeo and Juliet. Now, by saying this is very narrow. Now, I only talk about that one thing in this paragraph, and notice I talk about it quite a bit. So I think you need to have more clearly focused topic sentences, and that's why you don't want your thesis to be like this. If your thesis is pretty specific, then your topic sentences are more likely to be specific. And if your topic sentences are more specific, you're more likely to have specific details for those particular body paragraphs. And guess what? Your academic writing proficiency is getting higher and higher and higher. All right? So you say, I'd like to visit the old buildings and visit their museums, such as the House of Romeo and Juliet. The historical places make me feel the grandeur of the place and want to learn more about the depth of their history. This is not a terrible paragraph, but it's just not developed enough. Let me show you what we're talking about. 65 words. I think for academic writing, because you talked about romantic places, old buildings, museums, and then the House of Romeo and Juliet, 65 words is not enough. Now, if you spend 100 words and you only talk about Romeo and Juliet house, now that's going to have more depth. Now, what does that sound like? Here it is. First of all, Venice is an excellent choice for tourists to visit because of its ancient historical sites, such as the House of Romeo and Juliet. This house is said to belong to one of literature's most famous characters, and even though this fictitious story There we go. Even though this fictitious story was popularized by world-renowned writer William Shakespeare, the first version of this iconic story was written by Italian author Luigi da Porto. Now, I had to do some research on this, I'll be honest with you. Now, remember, don't pick a topic if you cannot develop it enough. That's your responsibility. If you pick the topic, that means that you need to develop that with adequate supporting detail. If you don't have enough adequate supporting detail, then move to a different topic. But since you picked it, I'm showing you how you can develop it. Since I'm a literature fan of this tragic literature masterpiece, I would love to get the chance to see a living version of where Juliet lived. Like tourists who visit the famous house, how about like other tourists who visit the famous house, I would leave a note to Juliet and even rub her famous bronze statue for good luck. So what do we do here? Right, so now we have 120 words and we only focused on one specific example. That's it. Okay, the next one. On the other hand, there are a lot of activities that I'd like to try. If you use on the one hand, on the other hand, you're almost talking about something which is the opposite of what you are talking about before, but it's not really the opposite. You're kind of adding to what you said. So in addition to visiting the ancient historical sites, you would also want to visit, you would want to try the gondola boat ride, right? So you said there are a lot of activities I'd like to try in Venice. First of all, riding gondola and rowing it is one of the most exciting activities there. It would be my first time trying it. See, this is the story. You mention a detail, but you don't stick with it. And then you only write about it. We got 21 words. Are you kidding me? That's not enough. That's not enough to really develop, to really tell me what that's about. That's not enough. Say, in addition, I'd like to visit elegant and luxurious Italian restaurants and taste the most delicious Italian food. To me, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother paragraph. You talk about the boat ride in one paragraph. You talk about the food in another. So the key here is don't try to put too many reasons in the same body paragraph, because once you put that other reason in there, then you're expected to develop it. But you're not developing either. So the writer who tries to do everything, guess what? Does nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm only picking the boat ride. That's it. That's all I talk about here. Period. Says, second of all, visiting Venice would give me the chance to ride in a gondola. I have seen many movies and documentaries in which the actors and tourists rode in the romantic boats and narrow waterways going throughout the city of Venice. Venice. I heard that I can rent a gondola plus the navigator who rows the boat for as little as $45 per hour. My plan would be to rent a gondola for at least 2 hours as I went around the different parts of Venice to see the tourist attractions. Moreover, I would plan my excursion so that the last 30 minutes of the boat ride would be right around sunset. I heard that the buildings light up with fiery hues of orange, red, and pink as the sun slowly disappears over the horizon. So you notice that? So I took here, we have 133 words, and I only focused on one idea, the gondola. That's it. That is going to get you a higher score if you use that strategy. And it's not just for TOEFL. Your strategy is to bring up a point within a body paragraph and then show you can elaborate and develop only that one idea. Okay, now this is your best paragraph, your strongest paragraph. I still made some changes to it, but this is the one that you need to think about. This is where you succeeded more in your writing, I think. You said, finally, one of the most beautiful things about traveling is shopping and buying souvenirs. Venice is famous for its glass factories, and most shops sell glass antiques that come in wonderful shapes and colors such as animals and plants. Also, the antiques are branded with the name of the place. These souvenirs would remind me of my wonderful trip and moments in Venice, right? So this is a pretty good paragraph. Now, I did develop it a little bit more. You'll see what I did. So I'm saying, finally, one of the most beautiful things about traveling is shopping and buying souvenirs, and Venice would be a treasure trove for me if I visited. Venice is famous for its glass factories, and most shops sell antiques that come in wonderful shapes and colors, such as animals and plants. Also, the antiques are branded with the name of the place. In particular, there is this one souvenir shop in the middle of the city that I would definitely visit. The store offers a glass replica of the Juliet House in bright crystal colors, and the artist brands the name of the store and the city of Venice on the bottom of the classy souvenir, which would remind me of my wonderful trip and moments in Venice. So yours was pretty good, but still the goal here is to get closer to 100, so you're 62 words, and then I gave you another 50. So now we have 124 words. So what I did is I added the example here. I talked about a specific shop. Right? And guess what? I just made it up. I just made it up out of my brain. But there's probably a shop like this, I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure. But this is just showing you how you can develop and make your paragraphs a little bit more fat. You're trying to make them a little fatter. Okay, your conclusion is good, but I think you need to combine the key points a little bit better. So you say, in conclusion, it's very true that many people would love to visit different places around the world. However, Venice is the most interesting place for me because it combines between history and activity. So I put, in conclusion, it is true that many people would love to visit different places around the world. However, Venice is the most interesting place for me because it attracts tourists with its history, its famous gondola rides, and its one-of-a-kind shopping activities. So I just took the points that you've already written about and I listed them one by one. Okay? So that's it. So in your case, I gave you a score of 2.0 out of 5, 14 points out of 30. You got two main things that you need to do to improve your writing right now. Remember, we have a lot of practice in my course, and you can continue to get better and to refine your writing skills, but you need to work on creating more sharply focused thesis, and you want to make sure you develop the paragraphs more, but with only one reason. Don't put too many different things in those paragraphs. These are the two things that you can get from this lesson today. All right, thank you.